Welcome to Beyond the Design, where we dive into stories behind the world's most inspiring architects and designers. I'm your host, Cray Beaumont Flynn, and today we're joined by David Mann, founder of MR Architecture and Decor. Let's explore his journey and the art of creating exceptional spaces. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you. I'm extremely happy to be on your show.
Thank you. Well, we're glad that you have joined us. Well, you founded MR Architecture and Decor in 1995. Can you tell us about your journey to that moment and what inspired you to take the leap into establishing your own practice?
I suppose it's everyone's dream to have their own firm someday. And like everybody else, I followed along with that. But my journey I was raised in Phoenix, Arizona. Went to Pratt Institute, study architecture. And after graduating, I went to work for a very large architectural firm. And while I was there, I started freelancing. And one of the freelance projects I had was a department store on Fifth Avenue called Takashimaya. And started out as very small projects there, mostly styling in the beginning, but it grew into bigger projects and bigger and bigger. And the store got a lot of attention. And based on that attention, I found myself overwhelmed by the freelance work I was getting. And that's where I made the leap. So it was sort of a natural jump
Right.
that I'm 30 years later in the middle of.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Exactly.
Well, MR is renowned for its exquisitely crafted projects and personalized service. How do you develop this ethos, and how has it evolved since the firm's, inception? And since a second part of that question, what were you surprised at that you didn't learn or know when you took the leap of faith in doing your own firm?
I think I'll answer this exactly everything, absolutely everything. But maybe I will address that second part first. I think when you're an architecture student or dreaming to be an architect as a young kid, you think you're going to be designing all the time. And yes, you do get to do that. And yes, that is very much a part of it, very much responsible for that. And people do look to you for that. But there are so many other things involved in running a business of any kind that you're not always thinking about when you're thinking of having your own firm. So that's probably the biggest surprise, is all those other things you need to do to keep it all running and moving smoothly. In terms of the quality of service, that is something I think I did learn a lot of that with working at other places for other people prior to having my own firm, but certainly it has evolved over time. I believe that New York itself is a good honing material for somebody aspiring to do what we do. The people here who have lots of money that can hire you to do this have a great deal of demand, and that demand evolves you into the person that can provide it. Mm-hmm. It's not for everybody, but it is very much a service-oriented delivery that we do. And I'm crediting a lot to the people who we've had as clients who are expecting something, and we need to deliver that.
Mm-hmm. Given that our industry can be a little bit challenging at times, especially with the amount of technology that flows through our hands on a daily basis and ever so often, what do you find challenging in today's industry, especially with the movement of AI being affected and coming into our industry?
I wonder if I'm getting too old for all this. I mean, I'm curious as the next guy, and I always used to think of myself as an early adapter, but in truth, I'm not. That's why there are people here who are half my age who run circles around me in terms of anything like that. But I suppose they're all tools. I remember learning myself AutoCAD and working in 3D and drawing and doing everything on AutoCAD. At the time, I thought, well, this is just another pencil. These are all just tools. What gets out of our brain onto paper and actually gets built. or maybe it skips the paper at this point and just gets built from whatever.
Right.
They're just tools, and I still see them as that.
When you first started, were there any influencers that kind of set your design philosophy, and has that changed as you've continued on this journey?
Very much so. I think as a young person, I was very much admired the great architects and who they were. And I think today I admire so many people, not necessarily the notorious big names of the past. I'm inspired by the people I meet, come in contact with, the people I work with, not just the employees here in my firm, but also the consultants and contractors and artisans and all the myriad of people that bring a lot of their own heart and skill and passion to the project.
Well, your firm prides itself on collaboration and tailoring designs to your client's specific needs. Can you share how that collaborative process works in practice and what makes it successful?
Yes, I will answer that question, but I will preface it by saying that I like to think there are three types of clients: the one with no opinions, the one with a little bit of an opinion, and the one with a big opinion. And I like to think we work well with any of the above. It's the one in the middle that's usually the hardest. But in terms of the collaborative spirit with the client, I do take great joy in working closely with clients, especially when we're doing somebody's home. I always like to think it's their home, not mine. And what I try to do is bring the best of my experience and the best of my talents to the table and commingle it with their aspirations. And I definitely have my own opinions and comment and push and pull and tell people what I think. But I believe I keep a very open mind and allow a lot of possibility out of things I think originally are maybe very bad ideas, and somehow try to make them work. I think I derive a great deal of joy out of making the most of a situation, no matter what it is, to making magic out of it. And that to me is great joy.
Is there a particular MR Architecture and Decor style that you try to incorporate into each of your projects, or is there a design element that's carried over?
I like this question, although I don't know if I have a direct answer for it. And maybe it's simply that I can't see it as clearly as maybe others can. I used to think that I didn't have a signature style, and maybe that was a design fault. I actually now think of it as a great advantage. I think some of the joy for me has always been the different experiences. I used to sometimes go to a client and say, I like to think of taking on a project like a great actor takes on a great acting role. It's not about seeing the actor. It's about seeing that role realized. And the more you don't see me in it, the better it actually is. And I still work from a philosophical point like that. And I do get great joy in the differences of projects. But having said that, I think that other people see similarities with our work, and they definitely see the tendencies that we tend to have. And of course, they're there.
MR seamlessly integrates architecture and decor in its projects. How do you approach striking their balance between the structural element and the aesthetic in your process?
I think that the way we strike that balance is not putting preference of one over the other, and thinking that I guess I'll backtrack on this and talk about working for a large architectural firm. There was a big divide between the people that worked on interiors and the people that worked on architecture, and there was a snobbery.
Yeah.
The architects, of course, were always, treated the interior folk poorly.
They against us.
Exactly. And I've always rejected that. Trained as an architect, and I'm a licensed architect. but I have a passion for interiors, and I really, I'd like to think that I can design anything from a spoon to a city and anything in between, and don't really put a preference on one or the other. Of course, I have more experience at some things than others, and more likely to get more work doing one thing than the other. But I don't like to think that there is a preference for one over the other and that they have equal weight.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the current projects that you're working on that you can talk about?
We are doing a triplex penthouse in the Village, which we're very excited about. Along with that, we're doing converting an old farmhouse in Bedford. And we're doing a penthouse in Miami. Those are kind of the three larger projects we're working on. We just finished a Hamptons ground up house in May of this year. So we're super excited about that. And just completed a very small pied-à-terre for a very famous fashion designer here in Manhattan. And we're about to photograph that at the end of this month.
Are there any particular types of projects that you have yet to work on that you really want to strike off your list and say, I've done that?
Yes. The thing that I have a personal passion for is designing a home for myself. I do have a weekend home, but it was built in 1783. So I'm old, but not that old. Didn't design it. But it's a large property, and I want to build a little modernist jewel house for myself. And the intent there for me is to, of all the collaborative projects, I want to collaborate with myself on that one. And see how well I do.
I've known other architects that have said that, and it's taken them, one 8 years, and the other, I think it was probably about 14 years, because they
that
were
makes
their
sense.
own worst clients. Because we're very experiential in our environments, and we see things that we want to incorporate into our own lives. And then, it kind of morphs and changes. So the process is a little bit longer. So hopefully you have better timing on that than most.
Well, what you're saying is absolutely right. And as I mentioned, the three, I'm the one in the middle, the one that has a little bit of an opinion about what I have for myself. And it is difficult. It's very, it's a very difficult thing. And a couple of years ago, we did a monograph. And my intent in doing it wasn't so much to have a book out there, although of course that was one of the fruits of doing that. It was a little bit of an exploration of our own past, and to kind of get a handle on that, to better assess how we move forward in the future. It was kind of a survey of going back through all those projects, looking at them, framing them within the retrospective of a career, and assessing where to take the career from there.
Right. Well, like I said, good luck. And do you have a timeline? Do you have a land or a plot already picked out? Or
I do. It's it's on my own land. It's two separate lots, and it's the back lot of my property upstate. It's near Hudson.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you've worked with some of the world's most prestigious and well-known brands. What unique challenges and opportunities come with designing for luxury retail spaces?
I think when you're doing a big brand, depending on them, some of them were not like this. But the first thought that came to mind is that there's a lot of players involved. There's the marketing people, there's the talent, there's the money people, and so you're dealing with all of those layers. But in some cases, the talent said everything, and you work directly with them. But it wasn't always the case. Usually, there's a timeline and a budget, both usually unreasonable, and there's also the pressure of the fact that it's a known name brand, and the actual pressure of making sure it relates to that and makes sense of that. And you're usually trying to push and move that to someplace new and different. They're trying to capture a younger audience, or they're trying to launch a new part of who they are or what they are. So the multi-layers. I will say, however, I do find that kind of work a lot easier than working on people's homes. Not necessarily more rewarding, but easier, just in that it's usually other people's money and isn't as personal, so that there's not that same kind of, I'm going to be staring at that wall for the rest of my life. It better be right.
Right. Well, also, it's a definitive brand. It's not someone's lifestyle that, can be a little wishy-washy, or it's like someone going in and getting a haircut. I want to look like this. Well, it doesn't fit your lifestyle. You tell me one thing, but this doesn't match. You have
That's true.
A load of antiques, and you love the classical, but then you want a white contemporary box. It's like
that's absolutely true. However, we have in the past created brand new brands that didn't exist before. So there you are creating identity for the first time, and
sure.
Helping them brand and define themselves through the environment.
Well, besides luxury brands, your portfolio spans private residences, commercial spaces, and hospitality projects. How do you pivot between these different types of design and aesthetics? And do you have a favorite project type?
Residents are my favorite. Ground up residents are actually specifically my favorite type to build, a ground up house. And when we get the opportunity to do that, where we're also responsible for, responsible for the landscaping and the decorating and the accessorizing, so that we're doing literally everything. Those can be the most rewarding and the most fully fleshed out projects. And I enjoy the intimacy of working very closely with people to help them realize a dream.
Well, every project has a story to it. Is there a particular project or client collaboration that stands out to you as especially meaningful or sparks a good memory?
The Takashimaya, I think, client does in a way. We had Corky Tyler was the creative head of the company. She had her associate Chi-Chi, so Corky and Chi-Chi. With the two of them, we created magic with budgets that were insanely bad, timeframes that were impossible. Work had to be done at night, and they were but it was magic because it was something new and fresh and different, and we were all kind of reaching for something. And maybe it was my youth too. I think that it just all fell into place then. Not that I haven't had the most extraordinary other experiences, like building in China and doing a project in India, and these kind of wonderful multicultural experiences. Mm-hmm. But maybe because it was a formative experience for me, it was magic.
You have the benefit of having people around you that's been with you for quite some time, and you must be a fantastic mentor and leader. Some of your associates have been with MR over 2 decades. What do you think is the secret to cultivating and maintaining such a loyal and talented team?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
You're just a great boss. You're a great guy, David. Just say
it. Maybe I am. I don't know. I'm very grateful. You can't imagine how much easier it is to work with people you've worked with who you get along with and relate to and have the same value. Currently, we're trying to transition the firm, hopefully, into them taking over with 5 years out or longer. But they've given me their talents and career. I want to give this back to them. I hope they feel it's theirs as well. And I'd love to see that happen. That this can carry on for them to do what they do best. And one of the things I take great pride in is that a lot of people will call and want to do projects, but only if it's with this project architect from my firm or that person. And I love when that happens. I think it's wonderful that these people feel as though this is their home. But I can't maybe we pay more. I don't know.
Hey, you hear that, everyone? Go work.
Exactly.
No, that must be very rewarding, especially as a creative, that, you have that energy level, be it, compensation or whatever, but people want to stay because of the work and working with the people surrounding. So that must be very rewarding for you as a creative in general.
It is, and to your point, I think part of it may too be the kind of projects we've had. We've had some really extraordinary, fun projects that, we're not doing what some other architects do, just redo bathrooms. We really get interesting challenges, and I think that may be a part of it as well.
How being, you've mentioned that you've been at this for 30 years. How do you see the design and architecture industry evolving and changing? And what role do you think MR plays in shaping that future? Just like I said, with other technology that's ever evolving around us, how does that affecting your firm, and how do you want to be a part of that change and the future of it?
My answer to that may be a little bit like your question earlier about AI and other things, is that I don't really know. Maybe they're a little bit beyond me. I think that although I'm up for whatever it is, I hope. Certainly people are more visual than they used to be. Their Pinterest, everybody sends us their Pinterest page, or it's connected, and so they're looking visually at things, which they never used to. You'd show people stuff, and they'd all be shocked by, I've never seen anything like this, and today they're savvy. At least our clients are. They know the world, our world, and we have to keep one step ahead of it, which makes it interesting and challenging and fun. I'm not exactly sure where it's going, though. I don't think I have a good bead on what the future actually will bring. Maybe people's interiors won't matter. They'll all be in front of a big screen that changes to whatever fantasy they want every time, and don't need the rest of the room to look right. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from the old school where it's pen to paper, and I create, and it goes from my brain to my hand to a piece of paper. So, yeah. It would be nice to have that ease and flexibility of time to create on the dime, but I think it also takes away the emotional aspect, I guess. I don't know. We'll see.
There was a Ray Bradbury short story. I'm not even going to remember the title, but it took place in the future, of course. And I just remember that in this future, you imagined you needed something soft to sit on, and it would form around you. And you imagined that you were, flying through air, and you were, or whatever it was. The change came from just a mental thought, no other action required. Maybe that's the future. Maybe beyond our time frame.
Yeah. Well, you're involved with institutions like Pratt and Bard Graduate Center. How do you view your role in mentoring the next generation of designers, especially, given the longevity that some of your own staff have been with you? How do you see your influence in helping them take that journey if they want to set up their own firm, or identifying where their talent really lies?
I've always enjoyed that aspect of what I do, of mentoring. Sometimes it's presumptive to think I know better, or have a better beat on this. Maybe I do have a little more experience than some, just by age. But I do enjoy it. I enjoy meeting younger people with passion, and mentoring and helping them realize what it is they want to try to accomplish. And I do. I guess it is just. It's just a part of it. Certainly in the office, the people that I've worked with over the years, I feel the strongest about mentoring them. But I do very much enjoy those experiences of being involved in those institutions that I'm involved with, and watching how all that has changed over the years, and even the kind of people that go into this, all of that has changed.
You mentioned you have done a monograph in 2017. It was your first monograph that you published. What was the process like for you, and what story did you hope to tell through that collection?
The main story I wanted to relate was the diversity of the project types. It's hard for me to see whether or not we pull that off with the book or not, but that really was one of my main intentions. It was interesting that the publisher did insist that it had to be residential work and not the commercial work, although we did do some relating of the commercial work in both the front and the back of the book. Process was an intense one, a very interesting one. I had an associate in my office, William Kluges, who very much handled that as he would any architectural project, took full responsibility for it internally, and we would meet for several hours every week, poring over every detail of it, every issue of it, and it was a tremendous effort. But a joyful one. And the release of the book was an incredibly joyous experience.
Will there be a second edition, a second monograph?
I hope so.
Yeah.
We certainly have done a number of projects since that book, and there's a lot that's not in there. So yes, I hope that happens.
Great. We look forward to it. Looking back on your career so far, what are you most proud of, and how do you hope MR will continue to impact the design world?
I think I'm most proud of the clients that we have pleased in the end, that we've made very, very happy, that we've made a difference in their lives. And I guess that's one of the things I hope that we impart is making things better. Just improving things. It's tinkering, basically. We're tinkering with people's lives and making them better, whether it's through commercial work or people's homes. And I hope I impart the level of care and professionalism and creativeness that we bring to every project. I hope that this is something that doesn't get lost in progress.
We've discussed just briefly some of your current project, but what's on the horizon for MR Architecture and Decor? Are there any other exciting projects or initiatives you care to share with us?
Besides the building of my own house, we're in discussion about a couple of new projects, mostly apartments here in Manhattan, but some of them look pretty exciting just in terms of what the client's trying to accomplish with them. So I think that is that. And as I said, we're doing the photo shoot at the end of the month of a project we're very excited about. And just doing a photo shoot alone is usually an intense and fun experience. So I'm sure you know.
Yes. One question I've periodically asked our guests, is there anything that you can think of that a client has asked you to design? You're like, I just cannot do it. It's not in the overall concept of what they've asked for. And there's like something that they've thrown at you that kind of like, wow, didn't see that one coming.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure there are, but I cannot think of one at the moment. They certainly have asked for some pretty oddball things over time, but no, I think we pretty much, when they come, we pretty much figure out a way to make them work in some way. I can't think of a challenge that stumped us yet.
Given that you're a creative, is there any favorite building or structure of all time that resonates, that's part of your DNA?
I'm very much a Miesian at heart, so the Barcelona Pavilion comes to mind as just a perfect jewel of architecture. Maybe it crosses between sculpture and architecture. That's sort of a touchstone for me, where revolutionary new ideas about space and handling of material with such professionalism and such extraordinary sense of proportion, space, finish. It's all there. I think that's probably it.
Mm.
There are a lot of other examples that come to mind, but that one is a favorite.
Is there one rule of design that you love to break? And is there one that you will never break?
The one that I will never break is the looking at any problem from as many different ways as possible to experiment and play and just try to figure out how many different ways you can look at this and figure out how many different ways to solve it to come up with the solution you think is the best. A rule that I'd like to break, I'd like to be able to break the rule of budgets and figure out how to do something, again for nothing. This is, I think the budget issue, whatever that means, whether it's, whatever it takes to accomplish something, I'd like to be able to to break that one and figure it out.
Wouldn't we all? You can try it out when you do your own home.
Exactly. I may need to.
Well, given that, besides yourself, a project that you want to do, is there a dream client or project that you haven't tackled yet?
I don't have a good answer for that one. I've had a lot of very diverse clients. We've had 6-year-olds as clients. We've had a dog as a client. We've had
interesting. Okay.
We've had we of course had celebrity clients, and we've had a lot of different type of clients. Maybe we've had charity and all kinds of groups as clients. I'm not coming up with something that we'd like to have that we haven't had yet.
Okay. If you weren't an architect or a creative, what would you be?
Well, I'm extremely shy, but I would have loved to have been an actor. Because somewhere there's a secret ham part in me, which is why I'm on your show.
Oh, there you go. Hey, you're on stage. So what's next for David Mann, and what's next for MR Architecture and Decor?
What's next is for me to go back to my drawing board.
Back to work.
Back to work, exactly. I think maybe what's next for us, I think it's what I alluded to earlier, which is figuring out how to transition, and for me to step aside and let the next generation of people here take over and see where they go and help and mentor them in the process.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or share with us today?
No, I think that I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat and hope we get to meet at some point. I'm a fan of your show and really appreciate that I'm on it.
Well, David, thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us today. Before we wrap up, any advice you'd like to give an aspiring architect or creative or someone in the design industry?
Not really. I just always remember Betty Davis. I probably remember this, but she was on the Johnny Carson show, and he asked her, "Do you have any advice for young actors starting out?" And she said, "Take Fountain. It's a lot faster."
I know that. I know that one.
I wish I had something as witty to say as that, but I don't.
And I've taken Fountain in LA. It doesn't work anymore.
You're probably right. I just think just work hard. That's it. Just work as much and as hard as you can, and with any luck, you will get there.
Good advice. I like that one. Well, David, again, thank you for coming on the show today. A special thanks to you for sharing your story with me and our audience. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time as we uncover more creative voices shaping the design world. David, it's been a pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you for joining us on Beyond the Design. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories from the artisans and innovators shaping the world of design. Until next time, I'm your host, Cray Beaumont Flynn. See you Beyond the Design.
Hi, you're listening to a Pod for Good Media Network podcast. We are a network that provides podcasting production services and a supportive community in which podcasters can thrive. If you're a podcaster local in the Tulsa area, we would love to have your show on the network. If you are interested in starting one, we would love to help you get started. Find us online at podforgoodmedia.com and fill out our Pod With Us form. Happy podcasting.